Welcome to your first live of the
I
party.
know I'm so excited and so anxious, but it's like good feelings. These are good feelings I'm having.
Okay, good. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to say hi to everybody in a little bit, but for the people on YouTube, this is a Flow Party Life of the Party segment or episode. It's where we highlight people that are killing it in our community. So, the Flow Party is actually a community of developers and designers using local tools and learning about web design, web development, UX, UI, 3D, animation, all of that good stuff. And today we have our very special Breeona Nechole. She has taken the Webflow community by storm, completely badass.
Mm.
And today she is going to be teaching us about 3D using Spline. So, Bree, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you guys again for having me. My name is Breeona, and you can call me Bree if it makes it easier. And I'm 26 years old. I'm currently in the USA, in Arkansas to be exact, down south. And I'm an artist first before anything else. And as of recently, I've been expanding in web development and designing. And in the world of learning 3D, I've been sharing it with the Webflow community. And like Melissa said, I've been killing it. I think there's no other way to express it. I've just really been allowing myself to expand and learning from so many people who are in the chat right now. So just great minds have been fueling me. So it's been beautiful. I'm super psyched to teach people about spline today.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, so let's give it until like 105. Um, so we can just catch up and let people know that we're live. So, how's been the week?
It's been an interesting week. It's been a week of resting and healing and preparing for today. So I'm just like so excited to be here. And if I'm like lower energy than typically, I'm just like recovering. So that's so good.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I mean, my week also has been super busy. So, for people that don't know on YouTube, this is like our little hangout every week. So, we like to like catch up and see what everybody's week has been. So that's why we talk like we're just hanging out. Hi Rahul. Hi Diego. Welcome again.
Hello.
How are
Hi.
you?
Hi, everybody.
What's up, Diego?
Everything good?
Yeah. How's your how's your week? I guess I can't talk today. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, for me, my week has been good. I'm actually about to take the expert certification test, so I wanted to do it while
Nice.
hanging with you.
Oh damn, that's badass.
I don't know how it's this test. I think that I did the other three tests, but I didn't know that it was a fourth one. So I'm actually going to take this right now. So hanging out with you and
Nice.
doing the test.
That's amazing. Okay, 105, we're there. Bree, so you already have access. So go ahead and show us what you're going to teach us.
Okay, so first, I just want to talk a little bit about spline. And is my screen sharing?
Yes, it is. Sorry,
Okay.
I was muted.
No, you're fine. Okay, awesome. So, first to start off, I understand how intimidating 3D can be for a lot of people. And even for myself, it was extremely intimidating. So I can understand why a lot of people want to shy away from it or just don't want to implement it in any of their designs. But my goal for today, I have a few goals. My first one is to explain what Spline is, like go through the basics of it as a no code tool, it versus other tools and how to use it in your designs. The next thing I want to talk about is how to maneuver through Spline. When I first kind of got into it, it was kind of overwhelming, but I'm going to go through some of the similarities between it and Webflow or any other design tools and how you can use those to kind of help you while using the tool. And then lastly, I would hope for everyone to feel comfortable enough to go ahead and start any sort of project. And I'll go through all the different ways that you can implement 3D with using Spline. A little bit overwhelming, I understand, but we'll get through it together. So, what is Spline? Spline is right here. It is a no code 3D tool. It just released, oh, I should have this, I believe in November, if I'm not no, I'm sorry, not November, March. 2 different months. March, February, around that time is when it was shared. And yes, so it's making 3D easier for everyone to be able to use it. It's making it more accessible and you can use it on the web, which is something that I really love about it. Some of the benefits of it, like the features that I really enjoy, are their real-time collaboration. It'll allow you to have multiple people inside of the tool at once. So, for example, if you're working on something and you need help, you can send it over to someone who knows what's going on, and you guys can work on it together at the same time. First, like they can be across the world and you guys can still work on it. Another thing that I really love about this is the 3D modeling aspect. Um, oh, something else. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. I do not want this to be like a me talking thing. So please interrupt me at any time if anybody has any questions or anything. But the next thing I love about it is that it's a 3D modeling tool. A lot of people know Blender, and I'll talk about that a little bit more of like Blender versus Spline, colorful versus Spline, and 3JS versus Spline. I'll go into that. Another thing that I love about Spline are the animation features that it has on it. They're extremely friendly for people who are new into 3D. It's extremely interactive, and we'll talk about a little bit. These two kind of go hand in hand. I'll show you some examples of that. Another thing are the materials. It's not as detailed as something like Blender or colorful, but you do get to play around with more things. It's very flexible, which is something I enjoy. And lastly is the 3D sculpting. And that kind of folds into the 3D modeling too, which becomes extremely convenient during certain times. So here's some more features. You're more than welcome to go onto the website if you would like. And another thing you can do is download the app. So I'll be showing we're working in it, we'll be inside of the app when I'm showing you when I use it. So going back, Blender versus Spline. When I first started using 3D, especially anyone who knows 3D, you're going to know Blender or something like Sculpt or Maya or another 3D tool. These tools are great. I love Blender. I will never talk trash about Blender, like ever in life, but it's really intimidating and it's an extreme learning curve. And as somebody who spent months doing it, it's still like, oh, this is a lot. Whereas Spline, I feel very confident when working in it. And I think that that's something that's important when doing work. You want something that kind of boosts you while you're doing stuff. Um, the biggest difference between this and Spline, I would definitely say it's just Blender, Spline and Blender is that's friendlier. Colorful versus Spline, when I would use colorful, over Spline would probably be for something more realistic. So I do have realistic 3D renders that I do. Spline is something more, I would say, animation style. And a lot of people will see that in the library. It's very fun. And like a 3JS versus a spline, I think you can really incorporate both, honestly, because even like with Blender and Spline, you can use both. You can take a model, you can make something in Blender and move it over to Spline and animate it. So it's really about knowing your project, what you want to build, what you want it to look like, what you want your long-term outcome to be, and how do you want to integrate it into your design. I hope that makes sense. So,
It does, yes.
okay, perfect. Are there any questions so far before we go into the next part?
Whoever has questions can unmute themselves, and if not, just drop them in the chat, and I can just read them after Bree.
Okay, awesome. So I just shared spine inside of the chat. Next, what I'm going to do, I guess it doesn't let me do that, unfortunately.
Hello? Can someone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, really? I thought it was muted forever. This is my first time using this app, so sorry if I misused something or my mic was giving you some blowing air or something.
No, you were fine.
Uh, just wanted to ask, like we designers, whenever we design something, before we go to Figma, we look for inspirations. You as a 3D designer, what do you look for before you start design? Let me show you my pretty face first. Yeah, here I am.
Beautiful. Love it. That's a really good question. For 3D, a lot of the time where I will get my inspiration from it, like I said, depends on my outcome. So I'll either look for 3D designers who are doing things that I do look up to, styles. Because I play around with different styles. I don't allow myself to stay in one area. So a lot of the inspiration will either come from like Behance, or a lot of the NFT 3D artists, I love a lot of their work. So I'll watch a lot of their stuff, or even how I interact with things. For example, I'm working on a project that has those old school tarot machines, and I'm figuring out how I want that to interact inside the website. So sometimes it may not just be about what other people are doing or the outside, it's about how I want them to interact with it inside of the website.
So you have a goal from the start.
Yes. And I work from the goal backwards. It's very, very important to know what your outcome has to be, because you'll come across so many different issues as far as like not using the right tool, having to go back. And I've done that before. Like I've started a project in Spline and need to move it over to Colorful. So if I would have known beforehand a little bit more research, I wouldn't have to go through that step.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're
That's
muted.
perfect.
I'm muted. I'm
Great.
sorry. I'm sorry. One moment.
Diego asks, do you have examples of websites using this 3D elements?
Yes,
Yeah, I
I
think. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, I'm back. Yes, I do. Sorry, I had something going on in the background. I was like, hold up, guys. So back into using the app. So yes, so when you open up Spline, you have an option to download the app or actually use it on the web. And here is the web version. So over on this side, you will see your files, things that are shared with you, your library, and so forth. Typically, you won't have anything over here. Here you have an option to upgrade your account, do certain things, and I do think it's worth it. Like, if you're working and doing more 3D work too.
Bree, actually, we're not seeing your screen. Can you stop the screen and then turn it back on?
Yes. Okay. No problem.
Let's see if we can see it now. Okay, perfect. Now we
Awesome.
can follow again from the beginning because we
Okay.
didn't see it.
Sorry, guys.
No
So yes,
worries.
over here you'll have your files. You can see everything that's been shared with you if you're in a group, if you're a team, if you work with people, in your library, in your inbox. I think these things become more convenient, especially like upgrading your account if you are working with the team, if you have multiple people you're doing things with. It may not be that important if you're just starting off. So you don't have to have an account to start. That's really important to know with Spline. And okay, so then we have your things over here, and then you can start a new file. So first things I kind of want to get into are the similarities between it and Webflow. So I actually would not recommend to start a new file when you open up one of these accounts. Personally, I would recommend okay, well, it's different from the app. So if you do start a new file, Let's do that right now. This becomes, I don't like this. You get the square of death. That's what it's not very friendly. You don't know how to move through stuff. You start like highlighting stuff and you're just like, I don't know what's happening. And that can really make someone close out of something. So you don't always, my first tip is you don't always have to start from scratch. You don't always have to have this huge grandiose idea when doing 3D. Start at the basics. Go to the library. The spline library is the absolute best thing in like my personal opinion. There are so many resources. I believe this and Colorful do a fantastic job at giving people resources to create 3D models without having to outsource them. So let's say you're coming in and you're looking for different boxes for product shoots. You have all these different options in here. You can go in, add your logos, do certain things. You're going in, let's say you need an animation for like a high five or something. You can go in and animate that. You don't have to build it from scratch. You can first see if you can find the model. So that's my very, very first tip, is to see if you can find it first before building it from scratch. That saved me so much as being a 3D artist. The next thing, so going in here, I would also recommend to just play in the scene. So we have objects over here, and then you have the scene. So over here, they have a lot of different 3D icons. I think this would be extremely convenient for a lot of us web developers and designers who are looking for cool icons to use. Then we can get a little bit more abstract. If you want to start playing around with cool heroes, different things you can do with your sections, things you can add to add texture or background, this is a really cool section. And another thing with 3D, it doesn't always have to be interactive. It can just be a PNG. The apparel section is really cool in my personal opinion. I feel a lot of people can utilize that. It doesn't always have to look extremely 3D and cartoonish. But if you do, which is something that I love, there's nothing wrong with that. They have so many great scenes that you can just go in and start playing around in them. So that'll be my first example, is to go and play around in things that they have. So for example, let's open up this one. This was actually made by, I'll link his Twitter. I don't know how to pronounce their name, but this is probably one of the coolest projects I've come across so far. They were just playing around in Spline. The reason why I recommend to go inside of someone else's project first is so you can start to break down how things are built. So what I'm going to go through right now, well, first let me show you how the outcome is. It's really subtle, but something that I enjoy about going in is that you can go in and break their stuff down. And this is actually how I learned Webflow also. So a lot of the similarities to Webflow is over on this side. You will have your panel with all of your elements inside of your project. And they have a really great search section up here. So things can get really, really crazy when you're working on projects. Search section is probably my favorite.
I just want to say, this is so beautiful.
Isn't it gorgeous? This is one of my favorite projects.
This is like all over, like how we like our stuff, full of color.
Yes. It's really, really cool. And up here, you have the option to make a new file. I feel like this button is really important when you're working in Spline, especially if you want to import things. So I'll talk a little bit about more of this when we get into the third section, but the import is extremely important. You have your undo and redo and your copy. Of course, you have all your shortcuts, which are extremely important. So they show you on the side so you can start to learn them. Love it, 10 out of 10. Then up here in this area, you have your create new section. So this will allow you to add new things, whether it's a shape, a 2D shape, a 3D shape, text, a new, they have a bunny and a teapot option, which is hilarious to me. How Blender has their monkey, they have their teapot, which is super cute. And you can also add cameras and different lights too, which is really important. And then right here are shortcuts to add those same things, like different points, a vector, your spheres, your cubes, and so forth. Here is the tool that you're currently using. So it's either going to be the selecting tool or it's going to be the full tool. This is where you can play around with how zoomed in you are. And of course, you have your shortcuts to do this. And I would highly recommend to learn these. You have your export options, which are fantastic. With Spline, you are able to export as a URL. You are also able to export it as code if you want to move it into React, which is something that I am currently experimenting with. You can export it as an image. And there are other options too, of like .spline. I haven't used the geometry only or the frame. I haven't used those two yet. So if anybody has any experiences, you're more than welcome to share. Another thing about it is you don't have to know everything. I don't know everything in Spline, but I do know enough to like share with you guys, of course.
I just want to say, when you export it as a code,
Mm-hmm.
does it does it involve only HTML and CSS, or JavaScript is even involved?
JavaScript is involved also.
Mm.
Yes, because there will be there might be an option of interactions or different things that you can add into it. So yes,
Okay.
that is all involved.
Diego asks, which export do you use for Webflow?
For Webflow, you end up using either, it's not the code, you end up, see, I can show you to answer your question. Here you have all the different options they show you. So for Webflow right now, I've been using the public URL, the embed option right here. But my goal is to start using the code and to start importing it into React so I can understand that better.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then, yes, you also have the option inside of export to control how they orbit around, if they can, pan, zoom. This probably doesn't make a lot of sense, but what that means is how are they able to like go around the 3D? Are they able to zoom in and out of it? How much are they able to do that? And those things do become important for certain models that you are creating. And then, of course, the play option where you can view what you're doing. Then over here, you have like in Webflow, all the goodies, the way it looks, the way it interacts, the way it moves. This is kind of overwhelming. Let me break this down. Up here, we have our camera. You can create multiple cameras, which does become very, very convenient when you get your frame in a certain area, you want it to look a certain way, make another camera and play around in that one. Don't mess with your other one. It's a whole deal. You're able to play around with your frame color. So let's say I wanted to make it a little bit softer. And you also have the option to play with the size of the frame, which is extremely convenient. And something else I love about this is a no-code tool. I think that's why I love Spline so much. Another
Bree,
thing. Mhm.
one quick question. I was talking to someone the other day and they were telling me that they did some graphics on Spline, but when they tried to upload it to Webflow, they were super heavy. So how can we work around that? Do you know?
I personally don't know yet, and that is something that I would like to talk with more 3D because I'm so new to not only 3D but also 3D and web. So these are things that I come across too of like, okay, how do we make this better for all of us? So
Right.
currently I don't have an answer for that, but I do hope to start finding out more
Okay.
because it is extremely heavy. That is true.
Yeah, and that's so key for building.
Yes. So an option that I would give is if you don't want to actually embed it, you can also just use like the PNG of it, like to just export the pictures of it versus having it actually inside of the website if it's too much. For right now, at least.
Hey Bree,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing awesome. So this is kind of like something I've been working around. I still haven't figured it out, just working with 3D, but something that could even work is you creating your models with Spline if that's easier than Blender, or using Cinema 40 and then exporting those model into a 3JS editor, and then you can export that as your code and deploy it to a CDN somewhere. But I'm a long ways to go because I'm still exploring what I can do with those. But I think, yeah, you can just use Spline to create your models, export them as OBJ
And then
files
move
or
it in.
STL
Right.
files, and then import them into a 3JS editor.
Yes. And that will also give you more options. That's exactly why another reason that's why I was saying I want to learn how to implement it with 3JS. That reason. And also you'll have more access to making the model more interactive if you want to.
Hmm.
You can only go so far with Spline. That's
Yeah.
the thing with Spline. It's great for what it's doing right now, but you can only go so far. That's a great, great. Thank you for that. Yes. That's a great tip. But yes, we're getting there slowly but surely to figure out how to make this work best for all of us. Because I know we're all just loving it so much. It's really fun. It makes 3D fun too. I think that's another great thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I always hear people talking about it. I actually haven't tried. The only 3D tool that I've tried has been Colorful because they were here,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm super intimidated by it.
By Colorful?
By Spline.
By Spline. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So hopefully, if I do my job correctly, we can get you
Yeah.
out of Spline today. So that's why I wanted to, because at first I was going to do this really extreme tutorial. And I was like,
Right.
hold up, like, that's not fair to everyone because it's so intimidating already. I don't want to come and just like, look what
Yeah.
I can do. No, my goal is to say, look at what we can all do.
Yay.
So
Love it.
I'm here for everyone. So coming back to like, so to break down some of that intimidation, that's why I say come into someone else's design work and okay, we're still here. Come into someone else's design work and start breaking that down, changing the colors in something, doing certain things will just help everything out slowly but surely. So going back to another design I want to share with everyone is this design right here. It's extremely simple, but this helped me understand interactions a little bit better. My goal right now is to just show a little bit of the things that you can do with it. So yes, of course, you can build, you can sculpt in it, but you can also do interactions. I don't want to teach interactions right now because they're a little bit too complicated and I would need like a whole outside hour to do that. But you have your state and your base state. It does make it simple. I'm not going to lie though. I guess something else I should share next is how to my screen. Am I still here?
Yeah, you're still here.
Okay, just double checking. Something had went silent. Okay, so let me backpedal. Sorry, I'm moving ahead of myself. I have my notes over here, but I'm not following them. How to move around the screen. So if you click space, you'll see that it grabs it. So then you're allowed to move. If you click command and zoom in and out, or like move your mouse to zoom, you're able to zoom in and out of your thing. If you don't want to do that, you can also do that if you want to. And then if you want to move around like that, you click control. So that's important. Oops. And then if you have a Mac like I do, you're constantly going backwards. Don't do it again. That's why I like working in the, okay. And yeah, yeah. And if you forget, you can just click random things and it'll help you understand what's going on. So how far you can go with this. So of course you can, let's say you have the space, like, so, oof, backpedal. I'm overwhelming myself.
You're doing great. Don't stress out. It's fine. We want to
So, like, I
see
wanted to
the
make it make
process.
sense. So
No, you're
let's say
fine.
you just don't want to have a 3D model, because this right here, you could just have this in your website. Let's say you want to make it interactive, right? So what they did here is they make this really simple interaction. It's so simple, I swear. It looks very
Wow, that is
intimidating,
so beautiful.
but it's very simple how they did it. So how they were able to go in and do this, and this is why I recommend to go into someone else's work, because it'll allow you to break things down. So to answer the first question I got on how do I build things, I look at things that are already built to see how I can make that do what I want it to, what I want my model to do. So if I wanted something to open, which I did, I wanted to make a beer cap open. I came to this project, and here you can see the cap has this base state, and then it has another state here. And then on the whole pepper thing, it has a base state and the other state. So you see that the states are just changing. You're able to go in and do simple things like that.
So
those
that
are simple
really
interactions.
works exactly like Webflow and like
Yes.
every motion
Yes,
program.
it's like the interactions for Webflow, exactly. It's so similar. I swear, it doesn't have to. If we can learn Webflow, guys, we can do this.
Bree,
Yes.
Bree,
Now that I
one
see you
question.
using the tool, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. My question is this is kind of these animations works like you choose which type of animation to activate? I mean, you do like a hover version, a click
Yes.
version,
Yes. So
scrolling to view
here,
version.
yes, you see it's mouse hover. We
Hmm.
have the start. So if you just want it to go when you start it to move up and down, oh, I'm sorry,
Hmm.
hit my mic. You have the mouse up, the mouse down, the hover, key up, key down, play, sound, scroll, look at, follow, and then they have a game control. Guys, I'm gonna show you the new game control. When I tell you, I was so excited for like 30 minutes straight. I was like screaming at my computer and I had to go lay down because I was just like, this is changing the whole game of so many cool things you can do with this. So, yes, you have options to do all these things. And they've actually made this much better to go through and clean up now. It didn't have the best UI there, but it's much better now.
Mhm. Is it the same as Cinema 4D? Because now as I saw you using this tool, it kind of has the same similarity. Is it the same?
I've
Cinema
never
4D.
used Cinema 4D before. Yeah, I'm such a baby to 3D. I picked up 3D in January. That's when I downloaded Blender. And so this tool has really accelerated me in 3D, but I've never used Cinema 4D, so I don't know personally.
But it's the same category. It is a 3D tool, isn't it?
Yes, it
Yeah.
will fall in line with it, definitely 100%.
When I
But
first started with Webflow, I think that I tried to rebuild some of these Apple sites that were expressing about the iPhone. So there was like some type of animation that you can use Cinema 4D to build like a lottie file, and then you export it to Webflow. So this seems kind of similar to it. Like
Mhm.
you build the animation first, how it's going to look, and then in Webflow you make like the interaction.
Mhm.
Yes, definitely.
But isn't there a 3D tool that is more code oriented, like depends on CSS and JavaScript more than no code tools?
I don't know for sure. Does anyone know of any? So far, like you're talking about no code, more code oriented, or just like
No, code oriented, like it depends on logic more than art.
no, I personally don't know anything. I'm curious if anyone in the chat, and we can definitely, I'm a part of a 3D group. I'm pretty sure we can figure out some other tools if needed. But yes, any other questions? Okay. Oops. So yeah, so that's one option. That's one thing you can do is to make a simple interaction there. Another interaction I want to show you is one that I did for a website that I actually made for the F1 challenge. My idea for this website was to literally create Monaco for everyone to witness. And this model was actually, I started this model off of a template. I don't know if many people know this, but here in the library under scenes, no, I think it's under island. Yes, there's this island house right here that I used. And from that, I expanded on it and built this. And I actually received some help from a few people in the Webflow community who also use Spline to learn how to move my 3D model across the thing like that. So this is an example of a start interaction that it just keeps going no matter what. And you'll also be able to see, okay, it doesn't do it on this one.
You're gonna export it as a video, right?
A
Because
video, I
there
don't
is a car moving, you know, it must be a video or cannot be an image, right?
I don't believe you can do videos currently. I've never done, I haven't seen a video. No, I
No, but
don't believe they have a video option.
That's just an animation.
Yes, this is an
Mm.
animation. If you see here, maybe I can show you guys easier. Okay, let's. Oh, it's not what I wanted. Well, I don't
Sorry,
know what I think
so,
is.
Brie, sorry if this type of question is too advanced right now, but do you have an example of a site that has 3D and it was built on Webflow, like a version that you can kind of like see a Webflow site with 3D?
Yes, and there's actually, I can show you 2 examples, actually.
Please.
I want to send you one of my favorite portfolios. Her name is Kathy. If you go to her section at the bottom where she has her, oh no, it's not there anymore. Well, never mind. I can't show you that one. She took it down, unfortunately, it looks like. Oh, wait, no, here it is. Okay. She has, I believe what she used Spline to do it, but I'm 1,000% sure that she implemented it with React. And I'm going to also show you an example of my F1 site that I made. And this is just using the Webflow. And I actually would not recommend to just use Webflow because you're going to come across this problem. It's a loading problem on this website. And someone else who is trying to use Spline in their Webflow site is coming across the same issue. So I'm working with Spline to kind of figure this out right now. So those are 2 examples.
Yeah, I think this site is not built on Webflow, but it looks super good.
Yeah, it's not built in Webflow.
Yeah.
Oops. I'm sorry. Yeah, she's changed it up a lot too. She's super talented. She's a 3D artist. And yes, some of the people that I look up to in the process. But those are 2 examples. The next thing, oh, I was explaining how this was an animation. Yes, you'll see the state here, the base state. It's built in it's like a whole conjunction that I made. It's a sphere, and it's inside of a box that allows it to move around. So the next state that I made it into, it moves 360. If anyone wants me to go over this, we can have a whole separate thing to go over how to make it move. But I just made it move around the thing in a 360. So that's how that's able to move. The animation is actually in the middle of the island, and it's moving 360 inside of a box that has the car inside of it. Does that make sense? Kind of a little
Yeah,
bit.
it does.
Okay. And then the next thing I wanted to go over with you guys. So we've gone inside the library. We found some really cool things. I've shown you a few examples of like how far you can go with 3D. The next thing I want to go over is the game control feature, which is amazing in my personal opinion. I'm going to share an example. Okay. I'm going to share 4 examples actually, or 3, I'm sorry. Well, that didn't look that well. Okay, so the first example that I just shared is one of the game control demos that they just released like yesterday or 2 days ago. In this option you have, you're able to move around and like jump. And like this thing is so cool, it's absolutely unreal. So yes, I shared a link so everyone can go forth and just play around with it on their own time. This is just amazing that they were able to build this with no code. And this makes forth for a lot of great possibilities of things that we can do as designers. Not only as like the gamer in me is extremely excited about this, but also the designer in me is excited about different interactions that we can make with this. The other example I shared was the one on the motorbike inside of a little city, which is so amazing. And then I shared a tweet for an example that a lady made on Twitter. She made a 404 page. Shout out to Ben. She made a 404 page using this really cool interaction of like a little spaceman jumping up and down all over the place. It is so cool. So yes, this is showing another example of the possibilities that we have inside of Spline.
So amazing.
Right? Super excited about this. Don't know how this is gonna act inside of websites or the best place to implement this, but that's the goal, is to figure out things as developers so we can make the best out of these no code tools.
I think that so far the best practice for a site is like a 404 page, like an error page where the
Yes,
user can play, because
yes,
I don't see another place where I could use this type of level of 3D, but it looks super fun.
right. I saw someone in the chat was talking about a possible way to use this for buttons, and I'm really intrigued on how they would do that. So yeah, I was thinking like a 404 page or a Easter egg would be really cool to use something like this. But I'm intrigued to see where people's minds start going with
Have you
having
seen,
that.
sorry, have you seen, Bruno Simon, who
Yes,
does your course, his profile website where you drive a little truck round on his
yes.
profile? That kind of reminds me of this sort of thing. And that website is, if you haven't seen that website, guys, check it out.
Oh, Danny,
So
I'm a follower of Bruno.
I know you're diehard.
I am one of his students. Like,
I want to be one of his students. I'm going to get to that
yes.
for
So
sure.
I can actually explain why this made me so excited as a Bruno student, as someone who's learning 3JS right now, as intimidating as that is, to have this no code tool that will allow me to kind of play around and do certain things. Like, yes, I have these really big dreams and ideas of things I want to do with 3D, but I have to take baby steps. We all have to take baby steps.
I'm with you all the way.
Yeah. So this
So
is a great medium for us.
yeah, that Bruno is such an inspiration as well. I mean, the work his portfolio is so cool. I mean,
Yes.
wow. Yeah.
All of his work is beautiful. I'm such a huge Bruno fan. Shout out to Bruno. Bruno, if anyone wants to take his class.
Yeah, I'm on it. I'm on it. Yeah, I'm just polishing up my JavaScript, and then I'm gonna jump in.
I believe in you, Danny. You got this.
Got it.
Yes. So I think that's kind of everything I really wanted to share with Spline. Did anyone have any questions, or that we can go into like the question and answer area?
Yeah, I've got one more actually. So on the left hand side there, you've kind of got like the layers kind of thing. Can you export those as PNGs and then kind of upload them into Webflow and use that as like an animation? Use like Webflow animations and like build it in Spline and then Spline or Spline, and then that export it as PNG, and then yeah, that works well for something I'm looking at doing. So that's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah. So I didn't finish everything. You actually reminded me of sharing different ways that you can use it to show it into your project.
Awesome.
So you can use it as a PNG, like I said, no video currently, but that's something to look into. I forgot who asked that question. That's a really good question though. If you want to take a 3D model that you made in Blender and move it into Spline, you can do that. If you want to purchase or download 3D models and move them into Spline, over here you have the option to import. If you go inside of the documents, it tells you the type of files that it accepts. I believe it's only a few type of files that it accepts. I can't remember which one exactly. And so example, if you don't want to use like a whole interaction or make it a game or anything, like Danny said, I took a PNG of a cloud that I made inside of Spline and use that on my website. So that's something that you can do definitely.
Anybody has more questions? Oh, Keith has a good comment there. I like the idea of using this for marketing, like finding a treasure on an island and getting a discount or something like that.
Yes. Like Keith, you have the exact mindset that I do when it comes to bringing the fun back into web building and the different things that we can do to get people more interactive inside of the website, to make them come back for more, to know that every time there's going to be a new game that you can play to do something. So yeah, I'm super psyched to see how far these game controls go. When you're able to grab things or break things down or like interact with stuff, it's really going to go off.
I agree. I think there's so much opportunity. Go ahead. Who had a question? No one? Okay.
I have one for Bree. I arrived late, Bree.
Hi,
Amazing
Maria.
work. Hi. Love this. Yeah, I got here a little bit late. I'm so sorry I couldn't arrive earlier. This is awesome. Did you show at the beginning for me to check the recording basic extrusion and modeling?
The whole point of this was to just go over the tool itself and how to like maneuver through it. I didn't want to overwhelm people, but I did show that they have the
I'll
option.
arrest you later. Yeah, because for a jump between you, what you did was just awesome. You just we went through the interface, which is different. But yeah, I have some doubts, but I'll know you. Uh, awesome, Bree. Thank you.
No problem.
Love it. Okay, so thank you so much, Bree. This was super awesome. We are very excited to try this. And go ahead.
I have a challenge for everyone. I challenge everyone to just start something. If you have something you just want to play with, or you just want to just play around with something, tag us in it and let us know what you worked on this weekend. I would love to see how this inspires people to kind of go forth. It's been amazing to see how the few projects that I have shared with 3D has inspired people to go forth and try things out. So I'm always grateful to kind of give people that push to see how far you can take it. So
yes, love it. Oh, wait, Carter has a question. Is there anyone here that's good at making 3D composition loops in Blender or Cinema 4D? Maybe Federico?
I wonder how much. Well, Raul acts like he isn't a 3D god over there, and he's like awesome.
That is very true.
There are some, like Maria probably can help out too. Like there are so many people here who are just awesome. So yes, I don't doubt we can find help.
Awesome. Okay. Maybe we can stop YouTube and then we can just stay hanging out here and talking. If you're in YouTube, you can just come to Butter and hang out.
Yes. Thank you guys so much for having me. Thank you.